Now is it better? Nope. Yep.
Yeah, nice. That works. So thank you.
Okay, cool.
Right next to me. Paul.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
I noticed I was hearing your clicks earlier from like over in this conference room, and you were over, you know, your phone volume is amazing. It's impressive. I was hearing you typing. Maybe it was on your laptop. I don't know.
And I was on phone.
I was hearing what sounded like phone clicks while I was in the conference room.
Okay.
So I was just like, wow, that's an impressive click volume.
I know.
And it's just that my keyboard is loud.
I think it was actual keys, but it was like a volume. You know, it wasn't an actual key. It was not a mechanical noise. It was
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I know you use that IBM like keyboard, but
Yeah, I put it away for now. It could get annoying if you're up late night.
Problem is that I'll replace them like usually 210 out there. It'll be like almost.
Okay, I'll go down and check if there's any.
yep, sounds good.
Do they do that in your? No. Yeah. Oh, they do. I'm trying to match up experience. Now up in there and here, like. When your phone anniversary is coming up. Oh yeah. September 6th. You want to do something? Something amazingly technicolor.
I got the same MacBook I did. I just upgraded to High Sierra and kept my fingers crossed.
How'd it go?
And did you survive it?
No.
It survived, yeah.
That's good.
I have a newer MacBook Pro, which I hate. It's just, I don't know, it's the worst Mac I've ever had. And this one is like a tank, it's solid. Everything works still. And the other one, it's just even typing on it is annoying.
No, it's those cement keys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cement cases?
Yeah.
It feels like.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
feels like you're typing on this slab of cement. Yeah. My daughter. So supposedly they had a hardware update just for that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a new MacBook came out, but it still has Touch Bar.
Yeah. Still has touch bar, but at least it has slightly. It goes down just a micrometer lower, so therefore it's better. Yep.
Next time you should do that rooftop gym before you do that.
That's a good idea.
Have you done that? The rooftop gym?
We're all members.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
And is it like classes, or you go whenever you want and just use the equipment?
Oh, it's both.
That looks like a class. Well, maybe not. Actually, they're all doing different stuff. I thought for a second they were like in unison, but
No, that's a class. That's a class. I know that class. I go there. That's Power Hour. Yeah. So it's, different stations that work different muscle groups. So it's like
is it 6 till 7 or is it 5?
it's 5:30, 6:30.
We could go there for like a half hour, then bump over here. We'll be all pumped and ready.
All right. Well, it's 6:07. I was expecting a little bit of a larger turnout, but whatever. So in this reading, we started with Docker Compose, which I don't know. It's lost favor, I would say. In the community, people are using Kubernetes instead of Docker Compose. A lot of the concepts between the two are similar. The notion of a service is something that crosses the, Docker Compose, Kubernetes boundaries. And then towards the end of the reading, we got into Docker Stacks, which was very Kubernetes-like. I guess it's the
I think it's there.
answer to it. Yeah.
Although it did say where about you could actually, it would integrate with Kubernetes. What was it that something did? Which I was surprised by, because it seems
Docker stacks.
something about that. But I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that would be interesting. Anyway, so we got started with the basics of Docker Compose, and there is a compose file, which I think we even looked at a little bit last time, if I remember correctly. Yeah, we were just showing what it's like under when you create a new Visual Studio project these days, a core project. It creates you a Docker Compose file with just the one service, really. And Compose is now, everybody's good? Okay, cool, thanks. Compose is now built into Docker when you install it on Mac and Windows and stuff, so you don't have to do any standalone installation craziness. So that's good. And it is a YAML file, which people have, I don't know, mixed feelings about YAML. It's somewhat readable, somewhat unreadable, you know, but
It's like clunky.
yeah.
And we use it all the time. And I just never.
You're never taking a
good editor that like lines me up with the hierarchy the way I, you know.
Yeah.
Somehow I'm always like tabbing or backspacing or moving the line around to be in the right spot.
Yeah. It doesn't, like when you type a line, you hit enter, it should, you know, take you to the next one or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. I too have. It's the part I think that's a little bit clunky about YAML is the dashes versus the properties, right? Like you have a dash and you can have a set of properties and then another dash and the same 3 set of properties, right?
Right.
That's the part that feels a little weird to me because they don't have array,
right?
You know, syntax. The dashes are supposed to represent array elements. But the command to basically, once you have your YAML file, which by default must be named docker-compose.yaml, it's just a Docker Compose up. And if I remember correctly, I had one of these here. Oh, I'm screaming at myself. I think it was this one. Where is that? Oh. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let me make this a little bit bigger. Let's see, properties, and we'll do layout, and we'll, our font, actually, let's do 24 maybe again. Okay, can we see that? Okay. Okay, cool. So we have the Docker Compose YAML. And it's basically comprised of the version and then the 3 sections of services, networks, and volumes, which we'll see. We see more about the networks and volumes later on. But I think we talked a little bit last time about the ports part of a service, and each element of the service, each, what is that thing called? Each service of the services have, they can specify which networks they use or attach to, I guess maybe is the right nomenclature there, and whether or not they use a volume. And I think we also talked last time about the volumes being the way that you persist information across container launches, other thing. Otherwise, everything is all ephemeral, right? And to spin it up, you would just say docker-compose and up. And because I didn't do the -b or the ampersand on Unix, like now you know, I'm stuck. I cannot do anything here. But I could, whoops, I could come over to another Windows, I'm sorry, another command instance. Sorry, adjust the font. What did I say? 24, I think so. Okay. And then here, we can say, what is it just ls? Sorry.
Looking for the image or the?
Yeah, I guess it's not really. Yeah, you just container ls or service ls or
Service,
yeah. So Docker service ls,
services.
services ls. Nope. No, it's it's container network and volume. Container network and volume. So if we wanted to see the various containers that are started as a result of that.
So service is just for Swarm?
Yeah, service is for Swarm. Service is that's fair. And one thing I thought was interesting, is it image? Yeah. That it actually created a image for this. Actually, never mind. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of something else. I'm sorry. So yeah, there's our images. There's our containers. We also created a network. And there is our counter app, counternet. Yeah, second one down there. And then lastly, our volumes. And there's our counter app, counter vol. Cool. So that was all spent up with the up, and we can spin it back down with the Docker compose. And then assuming we're in the right place, which we're not, Docker compose and down. What the heck is going on out there? And you could see as the down was running that those things were being destroyed. So all pretty easy. And actually, I think, contrary to popular opinion, easier than Kubernetes. Yeah, I mean, you've got it also uses the up, right? But there, I don't know, it felt like a little bit more YAML file. Like you have multiple YAML files, right? You've got deploy and one other file, which I'm trying to remember right now.
I don't know, we haven't read that book.
Yeah, we haven't read that book yet. Yeah, I know. I'm just, it's a little bit more complicated, it feels to me, in Kubernetes than just simply Docker compose up. I mean, the bringing up command is similar. The kube control up, kube control, whatever you call it, up. But it's just, I don't know. I think there's just multiple files involved, and that makes it feel a little bit more complicated. Let's see. So, and also like we saw last time, we can stop these Dockers and restart them. Let's see what else. And then he does a little preview of the volume information, basically saying, if you can take the volume and actually replace the file in the volume, and the running instance is still accessing it. So that's how he basically overwrote what his web page was serving. He does make a point to say that's not really a recommended practice, but that you can do it. Yeah. That's kind of it for Docker Compose. Any questions there? I mean, I kind of wonder why it got such a bad rap. You know, like, why was Docker Compose so? Not that it was so bad. Not that it was so bad. It's just that why did Kubernetes win? I felt like Kubernetes won.
Well, Docker Compose, you're limited to a single host.
Well, yeah, but Stacks answers that, right? But you're saying Stacks came out after Kubernetes. Yeah. So
I don't know how those things fare nowadays.
yeah, Stocks versus Kubernetes. Yeah, I think Kubernetes won, and
Still-
you know, it's
So
now Docker's fighting the incumbent, right? Versus you know, Kubernetes.
Maybe it was because people were attempting to use Compose before Stacks in order to do horizontal deployments,
Yeah.
and that probably would have been.
Yeah, it would have been painful, right? Yeah, you would have to compose. You know, you'd have to run multiple ones on multiple hosts, and yeah,
Networking.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay. So really, it's Swarm. I'm sorry. When I mean to say Compose, it's really Swarm. Swarm got the bad rap. Swarm was out before Kubernetes, right?
So Swarm has a bad rap?
Well, it just didn't.
It just didn't take off.
Yeah, it didn't win. Or, I mean, like, it was out first. It was by the incumbent. It should have won, but yet it didn't. And I'm trying to figure out why, if anybody has any insight there.
Maybe.
Kubernetes? I don't know. Is it cooler than Swarm? I like Swarm.
Well,
No,
but
That's how you say it.
yeah.
maybe Stacks is what made Swarm usable.
Okay.
I kind of wonder if it's because even when you combine Swarm and Compose together, you still can't take individual tiers and deploy them to different hosts and have them connect up together. So you got your database on a separate host, you got your front end app on a separate host, and you got your back end application on a separate host. And then you might want to have multiple occurrences of that to scale it. And you can't really do that with just Compose and Swarm until you get to Stacks. And then Kubernetes, of course, allows that from the get-go, I think, was the ability to take your different tiers and deploy them on different hosts, and then have those combination multi-tiered apps replicated in addition. That's just my thinking out loud. That might be.
Yep, that sounds right. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so Docker Swarm. So we went into setting up the Swarm, which is difficult to demo because you need multiple machines in order to get the, you know, the multiple things communicating together. We could try maybe something online, like an Amazon or something.
So I did it with Docker Machine, which lets you spin up VMs, multiple VMs on your host. I don't know on Windows, but on Mac it was super easy.
Cool.
So basically, it's Docker -machine create, and then you have to say which VM driver. So on
It'd be the
Mac,
Moby
it was
Linux.
VirtualBox.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Create your virtual machines in the cloud or those VMs on your own box, additional ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this was super easy. It was just Docker Machine create. I made like when he gets into the @C demo app, just spun up like 3 separate VMs that you can SSH into.
Yep.
From your host.
Yeah, so he starts here in Swarm with 1 manager and 3 workers, right? Yeah, 1 manager and 3 workers. So we can try that. I don't know on Windows if that'll be.
See what they recommend for.
Sorry, so oops. Docker machine create.
If you got a modern Windows OS machine, you should be able to spin great Docker machines.
So
Yeah.
so there's instructions on
Hyper-V.
set up your Swarm. Are you?
There you go. So let me get, did he have a separate GitHub repo for this one?
I just sent you the link that has like how to actually create the HipChat.
Where, oh, HipChat, sorry. Oh, I shut HipChat down, I think. Okay, set up your swarm.
Yeah, so that I think that's the oh. So scroll up. There's like a tab at the top.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and click on Windows.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so you're basically creating a virtual switch in Hyper-V on Windows, and then that's how you.
Interesting.
So -D is the driver. You're going to use Hyper-V, but then there's like this Hyper-V.
Okay.
Switch.
Let's try it.
Kind of a OS that is going to spin up for you.
I assume it's the like if I go to Hyper-V Manager, it's that Moby Linux VM. I assume. Yeah, that thing, right?
Okay.
Okay, so my switch, and we were supposed to create one called MGR1.
I think first you actually have to use the Hyper-V Manager to create that switch.
Oh.
If you want to try this.
Oh,
yeah,
virtual
there's a couple of
switch
steps.
manager. Okay, sorry. Okay,
So
here,
if
let
you
me
wanna
dock that left. Here's Hyper-V Manager. Okay, sorry. So virtual switch manager in the right-hand menu. Yeah. Okay. Create virtual switch of type external. External. Create virtual switch. Give it the name of my switch. And check the box to share. Oh, thank you. I'm amazed you can read that. I can barely read it. I'm this close. So allow management operation to share. Okay, that's good. And now, okay, cool. So, oh, good. This will be nice. Yes. Okay. Can someone monitor the live stream real quick just to make sure we didn't lose everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, and then I will go back here. And that was my switch. And we need to have MGR1. So MGR1, though, don't I do that without the create machine?
No, so you want to.
That's a real good question. I wondered that myself. Go ahead.
So you do want. So you need a host machine for Manager 1. So you would.
Yeah. Okay. So
machine create the Hyper-V switch, my switch, and then Manager
MGR1.
And that'll be your.
Yeah.
But I don't know that you actually have to create a Docker machine. You might actually be able to use your Windows installation, your native one, as one of them.
I think that's true.
But this, in my opinion, is a better, cleaner way to do it. It's more understandable that you've got 3 separate virtual machines, right?
And you can only have one swarm on your host. So if you created a swarm for this and then you want to create one for something else, you're stuck. So it does make sense to make the swarm manager.
Okay. All right. Cool. Let's try it. Oh, good. Oh, shit. Sorry. That was my fault. Hold on. Let me just grab that again. Sudo. I need to sudo in Windows. Okay. So I am in TIG and something compose counter app. That's it. Okay.
So I know how to do it on the Mac, but it'll be interesting how you switch over to that host, or do you do it indirectly? You'll be coming to that.
Yeah, I think it's
what I just said is like you've got to, from your manager, you have to issue commands via your manager, but you're doing it from your Windows CLI, unless you can shell over onto that manager and do it directly from that manager you just created.
Yeah.
But you can do it sort of pass through if you say, Doc, you can kind of, on at least I ran mine on Linux. On Linux, you can set it so that you can say what you want your host machine to be, and then you use Docker.
ENV, I think it is, right? Docker.
Then
Isn't it?
well, I did mine all on Linux on Ubuntu, so I had 3 Ubuntu hosts, and what you can do is with the command is you can tell it which one you want to be the active host.
Right.
And then it doesn't matter which command line you're in, like even
Right,
the
right.
one you're on Windows. Well, I was on a Linux, on a separate Linux issue. I'm trying not to confuse it. So I had 3 virtual machines, and I had my regular machine, my regular Ubuntu. So what I could do was, there's a command that tells you to, this is my current command machine. This is my current host. This is my current host. And I would switch between a manager being the host to a worker being the host. And then after you did that switch, even though I wasn't on the host, the commands that I would issue from my CLI acted as if the commands were coming from my selected host.
That's cool. That's cool.
So I think you're going to run into something similar here.
If it ever
It
manages
would
to.
be easier to shell over to them, to be quite honest. If you wanted to be on your manager one, if you know how to easily go from your Windows box and to shell onto that virtual machine, that's a lot more straightforward.
Yeah. So with Docker machine, you can Docker machine SSH manager 1,
Right.
and it'll take you right into
That's
that.
the
Okay.
fastest way of doing
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Well, we seem to be stuck
Oh,
at
it's
the
downloading.
downloading. Yeah.
Deep to Docker.
Which I don't know why that's taking so long. That must be a big image or something.
It gave you some indication how far along it was.
Yeah. Yeah. The progress bar is pretty awesome. It's,
Black dots on the black.
yeah.
So that's not too.
That's right. That's what you just said about Docker machine SH. You say SH and then whichever MG1, and then you are technically you are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
are on that.
Then
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
connect it to.
Whether you really are or not is irrelevant. You can do everything as if you were on that
Right.
host at that.
I do remember this taking a little while.
Okay. All right. Well, let's, we'll see how far we can get before we have to come back to it. So once I've created, I'm going to need MGR1 and then at least work 1, 2.
Yeah.
He has 3. And then from within the manager, I need to init. And then from within the others, I need to join. I see. Sorry, say it again.
Create the other machines.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's, I assume once it's downloaded the one time, the others are easy. So yeah, hopefully we only have this large step once. So on page 194 of my book, where he talks about locking the swarm, he mentions this later on in the security section, but apparently this is a pretty big vulnerability. Is you basically old managers rejoining a swarm, they get access to you know, they basically can accidentally take over the swarm or something like that. And so he says auto lock so that let's see. You
Right. So in order to rejoin, you'd have to enter the secret key.
So they want to make sure you enter the key so you don't do it by accident.
yeah.
You know what you're really doing. Yeah, I know this is an old thing, and I'm going to put the key in here. You know, I know what I'm doing here, so yeah, I use the old version, which Of course, it might not have all the security patches
Right.
put into it and so on.
Yeah. This sounded like a threat that they've known about, and this was their quick little hacky workaround. It seems like, I mean, like, it seems like they could make something a little bit more, I don't know. This just felt like a hack to me, but and then man, they're still downloading. So the next thing he talks about is services, which, as I mentioned, this is something that's used in all concepts, including Kubernetes. Okay, so here's the first comment that I had actually written in the book, which means it must be pretty important. No, not the whole. This section. So the default replication mode of a service is replicated. This is on page 199. This will deploy a desired number of replicas and distribute them as evenly as possible across the cluster. And the other mode is global, which runs a single replica on every node in the swarm. Why would you do one versus the other? He doesn't, I mean, he doesn't cover it. It would have been really nice to say, do this when, or, consider this in these situations or something like that. Then he did not do anything of the sort.
Well, in the case where you've said global, if you add a node to the swarm, I think it would automatically get the services. But in the case where you do replicants,
feels like our Blade Runner. Yeah.
If you say 3 replicas and you have 3 workers and then you add a new worker, that worker doesn't get utilized.
You'd have to
create a new worker and also bump the replica number. I don't know.
The global seemed like a good way of making sure that there's something running on all of the hardware and not more than one on any given piece of hardware. So if you're in a more production-like situation, that may be the way to go. But yeah, I couldn't think of, I don't know, is there a situation where you'd want more than one replica on a single piece of hardware?
Yeah, I don't know.
Unless you're resource limited on your different hosts. Maybe you have these hosts that, well, it would probably warn you. It will only put as many, a particular host will only put as many replicas on there, I would hope, as that it could accommodate. But let's say you had like 5 machines that were all kind of low RAM, low hard disk space, low CPU. You probably want to make sure that's evenly spread out. You don't want to put too many replicas on a particular machine.
Well, it does, as it's spinning them up and down, it does try and load balance them, but I don't think there would be anything, stopping you from saying, I've got 2 boxes and replica 200, and in which case your boxes would be pretty overwhelmed at that point.
Right.
But I agree with your first statement. I really don't get the global mode.
Yeah, I can see it, I guess, kind of like if you want to keep it close to the metal. If these have to be high performant services, and you don't want other services on the box detracting from something like that. But I don't know.
It sounds like I'm assuming actually that global would put it on every node in the swarm, including the managers. And there's guidance elsewhere in the book that's like I think it's in the Enterprise Edition, where he's talking about, this manager should really be dedicated entirely to the control plane, and this worker should be dedicated to this thing. So it seems like global would undermine your ability to ensure that certain things have certain roles.
So hypothetically, let's say that you had 10 hosts in your swarm and you only needed 5. If you said global, would it just push more of them out there anyway?
You needed
Utilize
10
all
and
of
you
them.
only
Even
had,
if it didn't need to?
I think so.
Things.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think that's what.
try it.
Well, what I was wondering, because I don't know, but can you add nodes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You
if
just
you're in
join.
global mode and you add nodes, you don't even have to tell it to scale up. It'll just automatically
Mhm.
scale to the new node.
That's a good
Yeah.
question. Should we try it?
Well, we might be able to try it if we ever get this thing.
Good examples of
Oh,
I don't know why it's taking so long.
maybe because you did that weird thing with the switch.
What weird thing with the switch? What did I do? I didn't do the
No, I
weird-
don't know. Like, is it can actually not get to?
Oh, did it remove my network, or something? I don't think so, but no, because we went to, oh no, we did that before. Okay, let's go to like CNN. Haven't been there today. Oh, it's going. The network seems to be okay unless it's accidentally using that switch network. I don't know.
Let's do that.
How big is this thing?
What I'm reading on the web, you see that the biggest version of Kubernetes, that they are building solutions already inside of Google Cloud, AWS, and Azure. That's what's being pushed.
Yeah, that's true, but I feel like that was after it won, right? Like, so Docker Swarm was out and Kubernetes was out, and none of the cloud platforms had really, I mean, they had,
Take notes how to do it.
yeah, exactly. There were a lot of steps involved on getting anything containerized in any of the clouds. And then I feel like the industry as a whole said, okay, Kubernetes won. Now, AKS came out, and then Amazon announced their thing, and Google had it, right? Okay, so grant you there. That's what Google was sort of built on.
No, yeah,
But-
you're right. I mean, Kubernetes one. They had a consortium, and they got all the big players together, Google and AWS and Kubernetes and Apache, and they said let's all standardize on this. Is getting ridiculous because AWS had their own container management service.
Right,
and
exactly.
and so I
Right.
think it was a smart thing. Let's all.
No, it's a good that it's all standard across all of the cloud platforms now. But I mean, easily you could have said Amazon and Microsoft could have said no, because that's Google. It's open source, but it's Google developed open source, and we want more control over the thing that we're going to use. But instead, yeah.
The command that you put in there looks kind of complicated for just creating a machine. I'm just wondering the syntax on that. Like,
Well, it's just all it is if you take it at its simplest, Docker machine, create, and name.
well, you told
and
me
then
type is
the
hyphen.
driver.
Yeah, you have to say.
Yeah,
Those
driver.
on there, I'm not sure.
This one is the switch that I just created, which apparently was needed.
Okay.
So
I guess I
Um,
didn't need a switch to
You can
create.
either call a task manager, so you can ask the resource.
so that they can connect to each other. Right. So we're basically, doing bridge mode and VM. We're creating new virtual machines, and we're basically making it so the VMs can talk to one another.
No.
Yeah.
Did you check the box to show you that those machines
Sure. Yeah.
That's step
are?
4.
Oh, that's the switch manager.
Oh, wait, check the box. Oh yeah, I did that. So virtual switch manager, there's my switch, and allow management to share this network adapter, right? That's what it was saying to do.
So the Windows task manager can go to resources and find out if it actually has traffic.
Yes. So that would be here. I mean, there's It's not going very quickly, but there's network. There's some network there.
Can you hit on the performance tab?
Performance, yeah.
And you can
And well, that one is the Hyper-V Ethernet adapter 2. So I have so many. This has got to be the one, though.
see the throughput, it's doing something.
Yeah.
That's
You don't want traffic on your virtual adapter, right? You want traffic on your
Real one. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, that's true. It was using, it looked like the
So that's what saying that the virtual one is using.
I don't know. It's hard for me to know on this view which one is virtual and which one is real. They just
There's another one called Open Resource Monitor at the bottom of the screen.
No, this is my switch. Yeah.
You go below
Yeah.
that one. You can see more of the true IO.
Okay.
You can see what programs are using it.
There's your Docker machine. Yeah.
Was getting it.
Yeah.
It just dropped.
Yeah. It does appear to be.
Something very slow.
Yeah, it's just downloading very slowly, I think. So going back.
So back to the global.
Uh-huh.
In Docker docs that Daniel shared.
Mhm.
It mentions that a good use of global services are things like monitoring or antivirus. So anytime a node spins up, it should get the monitoring tools, it should get the antivirus tools, like, you know, make sure that every node meets these certain level of services. And then whether you're,
Even with something.
whether you're provisioning something to it or not, scheduling work on it or not, they all get set up with these sort of core set of, I don't know.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah, that explains it. Thank you, Google Docs. Okay, or Docker Docs. So let's see. We're still downloading there. So then, here's another question I had. So in like page 201, he starts doing a rolling update. And on page 203, when he does a create with replicas, he made sure that he specified that network flag. He didn't really say why he needed the network in order to run replicas. You know what I mean? Like, I assume it's just that they have to be able to talk to one another. The managers, or they have to be able to talk to the managers have to be able to talk to the workers to be able to say, I want, 12 replicas of these to be distributed across these, nodes or whatever. But I don't know. He didn't really call that out explicitly.
I'm not sure what you're asking.
So
he wanted to create a non-default network. He wanted to create an overlay network.
Yes.
So he created that manually first.
Well, so he says, thanks to Docker services, pushing updates to well-designed apps just got easier, right? On page 201. That's what he starts. That's the premise. Oh, is it the
thanks to right.
Yeah. Oh, hey. So the
Right.
Thanks
So
to
he
Docker
creates a
services. But then he says, to see this, we're going to create an overlay network for the service.
Right.
This isn't necessary. So why are you showing it to me? That's my question, I guess. So we're going to show rolling updates to services. But first, we're going to create a network. Why? Because it's not necessary. Now, here's how you update replicas, right? It was like, what?
I guess He's just combining these two concepts that with overlay network that lets you cross different networks. And
I mean, I assumed that a network was necessary for replicas for the reason that I was talking about. You know, if you are trying to, if the managers are trying to make sure that there are 12 running and there are always 12 running, and one of them crashes and it wants to get another one up and running. But nowhere was that like called out explicitly, or this is the reason why we're going to create the network.
Right.
You know, that's, I guess, what I was wondering.
I think, Matt, you might, I'm sorry, I don't know you.
Me? Greg?
Yeah, Greg.
When you say you're just trying to combine a couple concepts together to make us more aware of all of the features, right? So the overlay network, of course, allows you to take two disjoint network segments and combine them together. You don't need to do that if you're going to do everything, all of your roll up into one single network subnet, right? You need the overlay network if you're using different subnets because you can't bridge across them without it easily. But yeah, that's not, I agree. That's kind of crazy to, oh, we're just going to do this.
Yeah. Okay. So I would love to know if it's, you know, if that was necessary or if he was just
two different networks.
They didn't seem to be, right? They weren't before. I mean, like he created the he created them back over here on page 187, and they're all created. You know, they all have 10 yeah. So it doesn't seem to be necessary, but
You're on what? Oh, which page? One.
Which one are you asking about? The where
187.
When he's creating them and joining them?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's like 188 or yeah, 188 is where he creates the manager and 189 is where he joins them. Right. And so he's using IP addresses 10.0.0.1, 10.0.0.2, 10.0.0.3, 10.0.0.4. So they all seem to be a part of the same network. Wow. Oh, look. Post progress. After it was all done, 0, 10, 20, things that would have been nice to go learn while they were happening.
Well,
so at the risk of asking a dumb question, I mean, when you're doing this for real, for security, wouldn't you want a separate network for them to communicate with each other than the network that the outside world is going to want to?
Absolutely.
So that's what you would use your overlay network for, right?
Yep. Well,
so I was
hold on.
thinking that maybe he was showing it not because you needed for them to talk, but because that's how you would do it in the real world.
Maybe.
I don't know. I only skimmed through the whole book, so
yeah.
I'm like.
I don't know. Maybe that's true. Yeah. I don't know. It felt to me like he was complecting two things.
Was there a good explanation of the underlay versus the overlay? Because the underlaying tells it. He's talking about how things, Docker hosts are connected to two different underlay networks, but then you've got the overlay network that they're communicating on. And the underlay network, someone just said something similar. So.
Right. So I think underlay is just the networks that you created. They happen to be isolated from each other, but using this layer that Docker gives you, you can create this overlay network that actually makes those visible to each other as one.
Yeah, and he does a good explanation there eventually. When we get to Docker networking in the next chapter, basically. So yeah, it just felt weird that I'm going to introduce networking. It apparently is not necessary here, but I'm going to talk about it anyway when I'm trying to tell you how to do replicas.
Yeah.
So anyway, it felt a little weird. Okay, so I think that is about it for Docker Swarm. So let's hope that this finishes up very quickly and we can actually play with it. So, Greg, when you did this before, how many minutes did it take the second one?
Oh, the second one was
It's almost instantaneous.
I think pretty much. I mean, the longest thing I think was waiting for an IP address or something on the subsequent one.
Interesting.
But it was faster than this.
It could be that that switch thing. I don't know. No, it looks like I'm not.
It looks like it's just past all the network.
Yeah, I mean, another thing that was going on there is, you know, I'm broadcasting live and okay, great.
So we spun up manager.
Yeah, manager.
Spin up
worker WKR1. Is that what it was? No, WRK. Work one. Okay.
Are you on the demo section, or are you looking at the?
I'm looking on page 187, and I'm looking at the get started that you sent the link to. So I'm just replacing the names with my names, but other than that, they're the same. Yeah, there we are. So we're already at this part, waiting for host to start. And
so maybe we just try it with those two.
Sure.
Just to see whether you can actually do the join.
There we go.
Could this be some more? You can try to sing stuff.
Oh, I can sing. It's 10 drinks and the karaoke machine later. I'll be ripping it up. All right, so it looks like we've got copying, setting, checking, and up. 4 more steps. Well, any other questions in that chapter? I mean, those are the only 2 that I had. Has anybody ever used Docker Swarm in real life? No.
I have a Compose production instance running on Compose. So seems to be fine.
But I read that people just use Compose.
Yeah.
If you manage the numbers of containers you're running yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And do you run it locally as well as in production? I mean, when you're doing your
separate, there's a separate dev compose for the dev side, and then a production compose for spinning it up. But it's very simple. It's like cookie cutter, right? So every instance, it's on AWS. Every instance gets the same set of services. So we're not scaling. You know, this set of boxes.
You're not
these services, and this set have. You know, it's just anytime. You know, if we spin up a new machine, it's going to have the whole same set of services on it to offset the load.
even though some may need more scaling than others. Right. Technically, you could get away with, you know, only 2 of these, even though you have 10 of these other ones.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So For now, the scalability requirements seem to be minimal, so this was the simplest thing.
Oh my God.
So now you can try Docker-machine SSH manager 1.
So
Let's see what happens.
this says Docker machine env work 1 and env
So that will let you
MGR2.
use your terminal, issue commands, and have them handled by that. So that's maybe for like if you're doing I don't know, but you should be able to just Docker machine SSH into that machine, right? So, and then it's as if you're in an SSH session.
Okay, so first let's verify. Whoops, machine ls. Make sure we got 2 running. Okay, there's our manager 1 and our work 1. Okay, and then you're saying Docker machine SSH into
Whatever you call it, MGR1.
MGR1. And if that ever happens, oh, interesting.
I don't know.
Yeah.
There you are.
Okay.
So you're in. So now you can Docker swarm init.
Yes, and that command was here. Okay, so Docker swarm init, and then I need my advertise address. What's the short for that?
Which is up there, right? 10, whatever the manager's IP is.
There's the manager. And he says 2377.
Yeah, if you want to be explicit. I don't think you have to put it in.
Oh, okay.
That's the default.
Okay.
And I don't think you need to listen. I mean, if it's all the same. He says to do it out of...
You know, if you don't, it defaults to the same, right?
Yeah. So seems...
Okay. Do we want to try it without just that?
Sure.
Okay.
Cool.
Swarm initialized. Current node is now a manager. Okay. And now this is the command we need to join.
Yeah. So if you copy that.
Since you're already SH'd into the host, now you can run you can look at the contents of your swarm. Is it PS? Docker?
Yeah. Docker swarm. Docker node. Docker. Oops. Node ls. Yeah, but it's just now.
Good.
Yeah.
It's showing the leader.
Yeah.
You haven't joined the other one yet.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
That's what I
Okay. So now we would exit.
Well, you can open a separate terminal window, right?
I can.
And then you've got both your machines accessible.
Okay, hold on. Let me just. Okay, that's the OpenSSH client. What is this? This is not used right now, so that's a good one. Okay. Let me just. Okay. And so now we are Docker dash machine. SSH into.
Whatever that was.
Yeah, I think it was WRK1. Yeah, I think you're right. WRK1. Slowly. Okay. And then we want to join with that token. It's so short. And this node joined a swarm as a worker.
It's okay. You didn't explicitly tell it what address we're going to be.
Yeah, that's true.
It already do.
Yeah.
But basically.
Yeah.
What's interesting here is you can't, from the worker, you can't issue the host command that you did on your other one.
The node list.
Docker.
Oh, the init.
No, go back to your other shell.
Okay, this is my this is
command.
this is the manager shell
Okay,
here.
go up arrow one
Oh,
on the manager.
well, I just did the node ls.
You can't run that on the worker. Go ahead and try. It won't work because it's a manager only command.
Okay.
So if you go back and do that on your manager, now you will see your.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you
Sorry.
did.
Yeah, I ran over here and did it real quick, just make sure it was there. Okay. So now we have the two joined. Yeehaw. That only took.
But so now you can do all your swarm.
Swarm
Now
meet.
it's really easy to do all your swarm testing and development. So we've got these VMs that are all just sitting on your host machine.
Yeah. So where was? So now we have this. The first thing we need to run really is just service create, right? And then he gives it a well-known. Okay, so let's try this one. Whoa. Docker service create name. He gives it web fe and dash p.
-196.
Yes.
It's probably obvious by now, but you can only do this on the manager. You can't do this kind of thing on the worker.
Yeah.
Just controlling.
That makes sense. Replicas 5 dash dash. Yeah, I know, but he did it with 3, so yeah. And then Nigel Poulton, plural site, Docker CI. By the way, I looked at that Docker CI course on plural site that we were talking about last time.
Okay.
Bad.
Mm-hmm.
It was too. It was like this, but worse. You know what I mean? Like fluffier and not. Yeah, and like. I had to stop. I couldn't even finish it. Anyway, so that's that, and looks good. Everybody agree?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's weird. But we're all 5 are, yeah, exactly. At least we have some status, indeed. All 5 are like
all in the
6.
same time anyway.
All 5 are 60% done exactly. Looks like right now.
Just like they all are.
That's really worse than Microsoft update.
I didn't even remember that one. Come on. I think maybe 2 different machines would have been good here. One for the video, and then just remote desktoping into the other or something. Apparently, it is still preparing.
Or a new computer set.
This is it's a good box. I mean, it's beefy. It was my one that I got. Was it the beginning? No, it was last fall. So it's been a year. Yeah. Has 32 gigs of RAM and an i7. You know, it's not a lightweight.
You know what? One thing is nice about the cloud. I created my VMs on the cloud and did this stuff out on cloud machine. It was fast.
Yeah, I think there's 2 reasons for that. One is the network, it turns out, on the cloud is really fast.
Yeah. I talked to that once and I just went, oh my God, I can't believe it.
Yeah, so like downloading something, it's like, bam, like what kind of speeds are they getting? but then also you're probably not running, screen sharing, live broadcast, that sort of stuff. So I assume some of my CPU is being taxed by that.
Yeah, you're taxing your machine.
What?
You're taxing that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You can't really hear. The Mac used to hear the fan turn on that thing. It would be like, I feel like it's good. Yeah, exactly. But in here, the fan is running. It's just kind of more quiet than the Mac one. Oh my God, I don't know if I have the patience.
All right.
We'll leave it. We'll do the Julia Child. Yeah, exactly. Come back to it later. Look, it's all done. Okay, so then he starts talking about Docker networking, which this stuff was for me beyond my scope, right? Like there was some networking stuff there that I was like, I have no idea what he is talking about.
I'm glad you said that, because the way the terminology and acronyms getting thrown at you were like assuming networking.
Yeah, I think that's.
Read other books to understand what he was talking about.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, interesting.
How did it all go together?
It's like the watch pot never boils, right?
Yeah.
But that's typical of most books when you get to a networking section.
Yeah, I think that's
They-
his
they start
background.
throwing that at you.
Yeah, I think his background is more of like an IT, sort of background, more than a developer background. I got that from watching that horrible course that I was talking about. He mentions that I think a couple of times.
If
So
somebody wants to use this for regularly for a job, I did find I got a Safari book subscription. There's a great book on networking for Docker, and it's specifically a whole book just on that. And that I could start to understand what he was saying.
Well, would that help or hurt? I mean, like there were parts here where I was feeling like, man, he could have actually summarized, like unlike the entire rest of the book where I was feeling like he was way too high level. Yeah. Here I was like, whoa, he could have actually just kind of glossed over some of these details, and he didn't. I think that's just where he's coming from. Right? I guess I could go back and verify that our service is running. Yeah, so we can say service LS, is that right? Or service PS or something like that. Yes. Docker service LS. Okay, there we have 5 replicas and PS. Well, that didn't help.
There's some sort of a PS command that shows you where they're located.
Okay, hold on.
Where all the
should be
installed
on. But you ran that. Oh, you ran on the manager. So you can Docker.
Service, and I have to say the service name, which is web-fe. There we go. Okay, so yeah, so it ran 3 on the worker and 2 in the manager. Yeah, cool. Nice.
Does it work?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, so we opened up 8080, is that right? So if I go to,
well, you can't go to localhost.
Oh, I have to go to that 172. Yeah, okay. Wasn't there?
I could not get the stacks window.
Wait, hold on. It's there, that one.
Yeah.
And 8080.
The right port.
Yeah, 8080. Right?
Yay!
Okay. Cool. Nice. Okay. So one of the things I had marked, which I thought was a fairly good explanation of the bridge network, or how networks can, I don't know what I was marking actually. So on page 217, he basically says bridge network, you can communicate with the host. You can communicate with multiple things on the host, which he shows in figure 11.3, and then figure 11.6 he shows, but you can't communicate between machines with that. Okay, next thing I marked was oh, this is just the command to create a new container and attach it to an existing bridge network. So that way these two things can talk to one another. Let's see. So theoretically, there was a network that was created as part of that service.
Yeah, there was. It was the same name as the. Oh wait.
Docker network ls.
So I think everyone's just on the swarm.
Swarm
The
overlay. Okay. And that was called ingress. So theoretically, I could launch another container on either one of these two machines and join that network and talk to the other machine's process. Yeah, because that network is spanning. Okay.
That ingress overlay there, if you do a Docker network ls before you init swarm, it's not there.
Yeah, right. That's created, and he does mention that. Yeah. That's true.
For the swarm.
Yeah. Next page I marked was on page 224, where this is actually a good picture of what we talked about last time. We spent a bit of time talking about the port mapping of the containers and the external ports and the internal ports, and he actually has a nice picture that I wish he had included way earlier in the book, and that way we could have saved ourselves a little exploration, I guess. Okay, and then he does talk about the overlay networks and how it can span two physical networks together. And he even goes into the hows and whys of how they make that possible.
It's some pretty magic.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. Yeah. Let's see. What else did I have in here? And then the next section he has is the
Do they
service
use this overlay network? If anybody knows Kubernetes, does this Kubernetes use this?
Well, from what I can understand of Kubernetes, and I might, I have this much knowledge of Kubernetes, but basically the reason why Kubernetes kind of won is because it allows you to replace pretty much everything. So if you wanted, yeah, exactly. And I think this part is true. He did say there were multiple network type plugins or something like, third party type networks that you could create. And he kept talking about the fact that on Linux it's called this and on Windows it's called that. So definitely there are different plugins, different network plugins, I guess, that can be created in Docker as well as in Kubernetes. So I don't know if they use the same.
Guess we'll find
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
down the road.
But I imagine you can make them use the same, even if it doesn't use by default, they have their own. I imagine they do, in fact. They probably have their own way of doing things. But if you want, you could tell both Docker and Kubernetes to use the same third-party plugin network. Okay, so this part was a little bit confusing to me. So libnetwork also provides some important network services. One of these is service discovery. And this leverages Docker's embedded DNS server, as well as a DNS resolver in each container. Now that was kind of blowing my mind a little bit. So they have a DNS resolver in every container. Does that mean when I launch a new node that it updates all of the existing nodes
I think so.
resolvers.
No, it updates the main one, and then when they check their local one and it's not there,
It goes
the
up,
main one,
right?
finds it and then updates.
Like, yeah. Okay, so yeah, just like the normal. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, but that was pretty crazy. I don't know. I wasn't.
I'm actually really excited about that. Like I was looking at, so later on he gets into the @C sample, that Docker sample. I don't know if
Yeah.
bring up. It's kind of timely for like bring up this source code. If you go to
No, that see. Okay, I have that one and another one. Where is that one? That's here. Yep.
if you go to, well, yeah, there. Okay, so in the source code now.
Mhm.
Okay. What's a good place? Like, I was just looking at. Sorry, the one I was just looking at was app source main resources application YAML.
Source
Source main
resources
application YAML.
application YAML. Okay.
And if you look down under data source
Mm-hmm.
For Postgres,
Oh.
look at the URL.
Postgres. Wait, where in
it's right
the
at the top.
Oh, okay.
/ database. Because the stack file said service database. And so everybody can, in the swarm, can just say database and it finds it.
I was worrying about that, and I didn't understand what you said. You dug into that deeper, but when I was reading through that, I did the example. Well, how do they control all the read and access to one single instance of the Postgres server? Because you can't have multiple Postgres servers running.
Well, that's through the network that you attach to that database, right? So anybody that has joined that same network can access that database server. But if no one joins that network, no one can access that database server, right? He says explicitly in there the idea of opening ports like we were doing last time, that's sort of frowned upon. The right way to do that is with networks, right? So you would have the database server and you'd have the database network. And anyone that joins that database network, in fact, there's a big diagram, but I don't think we're there yet. Hold on.
Okay. I mean, yeah, maybe we're jumping ahead a little bit. But
I think that's in the stack section, right?
Yeah.
But I just
what
you're showing is the fact that because there's this DNS resolution, system built in, we can just refer to the boxes without using the fully qualified domain names, etc.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of nice. I don't know that I'm excited about it, but
I'm excited.
Yeah. I mean, like the fact that I don't have to type dot something, and that's what you're excited about, or the fact that it's not an IP address.
I'm excited because all of the I guess I've just been dealing with a bunch of configured. We've been dealing with all this. Where do we put all the config that knows where this server is? We've got just all this cruft about tracking how to get to a particular server. Oh, and is it the dev? Oh, so we have to have a set of environment variables related to dev and blah, blah, blah. But for this, if you spin it up called app server in a dev environment, it's the app server in the dev environment.
Right.
Yeah. If you spin it up in production, it's the app server in production. Right. So all of that, how do you know who to get to? All that service discovery stuff that we're dealing with by creating crazy config.env files and managing them, and whoops, they're out of sync, and that all just kind of goes away. So I'm excited about that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But to be clear, when it says, name resolver, that's built into the operating system. That's just like an NS lookup, right? It's just it is.
Well,
DNS server is what it's implementing along with registering each service in that DNS server.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But the lookup, I mean, that's just normal, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
type something in.
Well, the lookup, but the fact that the lookup resolves it is because that DNS server lives, and when you fire up a node, it's registered
So
automatically.
basically what it's doing is it's pointing everybody to its own DNS server, and if it can't resolve it, then it just forwards it on to the normal DNS, and it'll go to the outside.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So the resolver is not the interesting part. It's the actual DNS server that's registering.
The fact that it
Yes,
has
yes, that
a
it has
DNS server
for its-
running within the
yes, for
For its
service.
own sort of virtual network, and for the things that have been configured declaratively to be part of that network, they all can refer to each other by these very simple names that you put in that declarative file.
Yeah.
In the source code, you can just say
I mean,
WebFE or
in
database
theory, like
or app server.
Windows does a similar thing. Like in Active Directory, it's doing dynamic DNS, so all the computer names are being registered
Mm.
in DNS, even if they're not actually otherwise hosts.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's not like
Yeah.
it's not like a brand new concept, but
No,
I get
no.
how
Yeah.
you wouldn't have to have environment or other special things for dev versus test versus.
Well, so I don't want
production.
to burst your bubble, but you could do this on any cloud platform by having a DNS for the virtual net where all of your things live, right? You could do the same sort of thing. Yeah, like in my dev environment, I have the dev DNS, and it says the app server is here, and the blah is here, and the Hushi is there, and whatever. And so then they can talk to each other just using those normal names.
Mhm.
And then there's a different little DNS in the.
But what's
test.
nice about this is my single YAML file
Yeah.
defines who can see each other, what they're called, rather than I have to remember to update this DNS something over here and change this.
And also,
Right.
you
Well,
don't have to explicitly do the work of registering it. It's
Right.
automatically registered for you.
But even before you get to the part where you're talking about how things can find each other, when you're spinning, are you on the part where you're creating a stack?
Not yet. So we're on service discovery, and the DNS was the
Okay.
part that we were examining here. So, so it talks about ingress, load balancing, which done. But then there's also this host mode. And I didn't understand, again, why you would use one versus the other. I mean, I get the fact that ingress allows external access to any node and external access via only nodes with service replicas. I wish he gave me some sort of concrete, like, why? You know, I don't know. I missed that. Anyway, and then, okay, yeah, that was sort of it for networking. So any questions on the networking stuff? Yeah. Okay. And then he has a whole chapter on overlay networking, where he does go into the deep dive of getting how it actually works, and that VXLAN tunnel layered over the layer 3 IP transport. Yeah, that's pretty brilliant stuff. I mean, I will say.
And I imagine that Kubernetes has done something.
Yeah, similar. Yeah.
to what-
Yeah. I would agree with you. And then one little thing that he kind of throws in that was at the end, but I think he'll cover it again later when we get to security, is for overlaid networks, the control plane is encrypted by default, but not the data plane. And if you want to encrypt the data plane, you need to pass another flag. But he does cover it again when we get to security later on. But it's just important to note that the traffic is readable, sniffable, right?
So that's just a performance.
Yeah, that's the reason why they do it. Yeah, it's just performance. Yeah. But one of the things I liked when we do get to the stacks one in a couple chapters here is that he showed an example. I don't know if it's his example originally. I have a feeling he stole it from someone, but where the payment service was on a specially encrypted network where the data is actually encrypted. Yeah, where the traffic is encrypted. Yeah, I thought that last example was actually really nice in the stacks where you've got enough to make it complex that it's like, okay, this is some real stuff, and it's not so overwhelming that you can't understand it. Okay, so before we get into that, he goes into, sorry, go ahead.
To revisit the ingress versus host, amusingly, it sounds like global is one of the cases where
the mode of global.
The other thing he didn't explain very well.
Yeah, I got it.
And it says another good use case for host mode is for global containers that exist once per host. These containers may expose specific information about the local host, such as monitoring or logging, that are only relevant for that host, and so you wouldn't want to load balance when accessing that particular service.
Okay, I get it.
So rather than every time you ask for something, it sends you to a different one.
Right.
You have this mode where you can
go to a specific one. That makes perfect sense. Why couldn't you have put that in there? Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Okay, so
basically, then you're attaching it to the host as opposed to normally you want them to be sort of virtual. Right?
Yeah.
This is your way of saying, no, I really just want to inquire specifically about that,
this host. Yeah, exactly. That's the what is it called again? The not ingress. Host mode. Yeah.
And it does mention host mode is also useful if there's some other service discovery mechanism. Like if you've already implemented service discovery through some other provider or something, then host mode would know already how to get it.
Yeah.
So like if you implemented your own affinity algorithm or something, what I'm about to say, now that I've done that, I want a hard code to go to this host.
I guess.
What are some other service discovery tools?
See it.
I'm not sure. See it?
So on, I don't know. The standard ones are like Cisco, those sorts of like load balancery type. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah. Like something else where you've registered, these are my services that are available.
I mean, there's a bunch of standard load balancing like appliances. And if you're using one of those load balancing appliances, then you don't necessarily need that to be happening. And so, that you want to
expose directly the host to each appliance.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, so on volumes, I think we had covered everything. I mean, I felt like this was kind of all review at this point.
Where are you?
In volumes and persistent data. I mean, it had been touched on like five times previously in other chapters. The one thing I didn't like on page 266, I hate when they do this actually. So it says, this command should run successfully even though there is no volume on the system called BizVol. So it's saying like, hey, I want you to mount this source called BizVol. And it's like, okay, sure, it's done. Even though there was no volume called BizVol, it says, there's no volume there already. I'm going to go ahead and create one for you. I would rather it throw, I wish it would say, there's no volume called BizVol. Make me type that I want to create one. I mean, or provide a create override or something. The fact that it like silently creates one when I just mistyped it and I think everything is working fine is like, that drives me nuts. Anyway, sorry, a little rant there. Yeah, but everything else is pretty.
I agree. It's a one-time thing. It doesn't have to occur that often. They should give you some sort of are you sure?
Yeah. I'm creating this for you instead of it being there already.
Old visual basic when people didn't use option explicit.
Yeah.
First time you use it. Then you go,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll just create this. Yeah. Or
even though you were misspelling it.
yeah. Or JavaScript prior to linters and like you could be adding stuff into the global namespace by accident. Like all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
It doesn't even tell you it's creating.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Any other questions on volumes? That was a pretty simple chapter. Okay.
Can I ask
Yeah.
a question? So, again, I apologize if it's a really obvious question since I get to really even play with it. But so if you've got a volume that's shared across disparate physical nodes, does he talk at all about how you deal with that? Or is it just you assume that you've got underlying hardware that can deal with it and then...
I mean, yeah, a couple of things.
I mean, he does talk about that on 269.
Shared
Yeah, shared
major
volume
concern
across cluster nodes. And he does say major
Major concern
concern is data corruption.
Right, but then does he go any further and just say like, oh, by the way, you don't want to do that?
Yeah, he doesn't. But he does mention, I can't remember exactly where, that there are services that you can use. Yeah, okay, here on page 263, third-party drivers for volumes are available as plugins. And some of these are like SANs or NASs. And he talks about like 3 different, at the time of writing, there are over 25 volume plugins. And he talks about different types of block storage, different types of file storage, different types of object storage, right? So all of those, or a lot of those plugins could be used to mitigate, although not completely do away with, some of the concerns around data corruption, or that sort of thing,
So just for Linux, I seem to remember it only had one.
No. This is, this doesn't even care actually, because some of the stuff on there are like, like for example, Azure file storage, which you can use from a Linux box or a Windows box or whatever, right? It's the same protocol that NFS and SMB protocols. So it doesn't matter which technology you're using, it's just storage.
So basically, most likely you're still using these containers only at sort of the application layer and got your database using whatever technology, containers or otherwise. That's your true persistence.
Well, you can have your database, which is a container, and it has volumes, like the normal volumes like you would on a database server.
A container, but you just wouldn't necessarily have 2 of them. You just have the one.
Right. Maybe.
That's what I'm waiting for. We just get into Stacks to talk about what he's.
Yeah, but you could also have file persistence, right? Where regardless of which node the image was uploaded on, all of the instances can see that the image is available.
Like unique naming, then you have
right.
Of dumping name.
Right, or folder, or some folder layout or something. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I meant. And he does talk about the block storage types and the file storage types and the object storage types. Yeah, cool.
So the one thing I didn't see in the volumes section, which I was surprised by, is so in doing some in the development environment, it's really nice to mount your local code file folder as the folder that the Docker container is looking at. So that way, as you're writing code, the container's running and it's actually reloading. So the example he showed was, hey, look, you can change your source code and find this weird nested Docker / volume / blah, 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 copy your new code in there and watch it magically refreshes. But there's another type of mount, which is the bind mount, that lets you just mount it to an existing local folder. And so that way you can use a Docker container. Like in early iterations, we tried like, well, every time I change code, I have to rebuild my Docker container. It was a nightmare. It was really painful.
We still do that.
So being able to have the Docker container built, but it's like watching your local source code folder, and anytime you change something, it auto refreshes the browser and shows you the changes.
Only if your local folder is bind mounted into your container.
Right, exactly. So, but that's what I was surprised by. He didn't talk about
they use the
bind
word
mount.
for bind mount. To be honest, they call it a mirror mount.
Yeah.
Because really, you have a physical one and an emperor one, and they're constantly synchronizing. They're mirroring each other, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't talk about that at all, I don't think, in the volumes, but I think it's a really valuable part of this environment.
You know, now that you mention it, he talks about plugins, but never does he say, this is how you launch a volume with a plugin.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Third-party
Like,
plugins.
yeah,
I see.
there are over 25 plugins. Like, you would have expected, here's how I've picked one and started a volume with it. You know, like, we don't know anything about the syntax of
-D something.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's a whole different-
Yeah. Anyway, that's interesting.
Well, the takeaway there is when you're spinning up all the replicas, they all have a bind mount. They all have their own. Each host has a physical directory that's mirrored to its container.
Right.
Each host has this pair of
Right.
So that's where the race condition comes in. Now, to get around that, you don't have a single source of the truth anymore. You get what I'm saying? Because if it's a web application, people could be hitting different hosts.
Right.
The person hits this host and updates it, but doesn't save it. Then they hit this other host and saves it, and then this one's lost. I hope I'm not losing you here.
Yeah, I mean, I get the
Right.
sort of the typical database concurrency issues. Like, two people read, one updates first, and when the second one goes to update, the one that they've read does not match the one that currently exists. That's what you're saying.
It is similar, but it's even worse in another sense, because you actually have separate physical files on each host.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And they're bound to the container on each host. Now, while they're talking about third-party plugins, I know S3 in Amazon.
Right.
And so you can create an Amazon S3 folder file, and you only have one in the world. And now on each of these, you can do a bind mount on each of the hosts to this one S3 bucket. Now all of these hosts
you've created
bind mounted to just the one S3 bucket, not their own individual file located on the host.
Oh, okay.
Is that confusing?
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah. So that's the question Ted was asking, I think, is how do you get around the fact that there might be multiple copies of the storage volume?
You can't have multiple nodes writing to the same place. Without a database, you really haven't solved that problem.
Well, yeah.
Right, to the exact same place.
To the exact same place. Exactly. Yeah. And so it is a little bit of a slightly different problem. You're talking about the writing to the same place problem, and you're talking about now there's no single source of truth problem.
Yeah, I would, this is why I like to whiteboard it, but I don't want to drag us down too much here. It's just like when you do the standard way he outlined this in the book. Understand this: if you have host A, B, and C, and you have a volume, whatever you call that volume is physically going to exist on host A, B, and C as a physical file. It just happens that the container that goes onto each host A, the container that goes onto host B, the container that goes onto host C, they're mirrored with their associated physical file. So the container has a file structure. They call it a bind mount. Let's say it's called file temp in the container. It has a physical file on the host system called temp. That's just on host C. Host B has the same thing. It has a container with a file in it called temp. It has a physical file out on the host that the container is called temp. And so
then what Greg was talking about in terms of taking advantage of the bind mount, does that basically only work when you're dev and you only have a single node? So then you don't have this issue because you basically just have one host and it's got your copy of the source.
No, that can be useful anytime you read only data. A single writer and lots of people reading, right? So like even if you have multiple containers and they're all web servers and they're pointing at the same set of source code, I as a dev can go in and update that source code, and now all of those containers which have the bind mount to that location would see that data, right?
But it sounds like you're saying that if they were on physical separate hosts, then it would be binding to.
It would create 3 different copies of that.
Like if you said ctemp, then it would be the ctemp on that other host, not your dev workstation. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I got out of that.
if you were to write, let's say, let's give an example. You wrote "Hello World" onto the temp file on the container on host C, right? It would synchronize it to the local file on that host for persistence reasons. That's why they have volume. But also on a host on another host machine, the same application is writing to that temp file. You say "Hello World" again. Which one gets saved? Because "Hello World" again gets synchronized to that physical file there. So you got "Hello World" here on this host, and "Hello World" again on another host temp file, and then they're getting synchronized to the physical file. The thing, the persistence is when you shut them down, then what is saved on all of the you shut them down and bring them back up, what is on the local.
But if
that's
it's a bind mount.
Right.
I'm thinking back to like bind from like the old Unix days. So when you have file servers, right? So like instead of Windows, where I'll just have like a Z drive or something, right? You would just have it appear as a folder in your regular path, right? So like /lib/head could just be bind mounted from some file server, right? So if that's the case, then there is no local /lib/ted. When I write to /lib/ted, it's actually doing a network call, and the persistence is actually on that single copy remote server.
I don't think that's true.
I don't know, but I'm saying, if
it's
a true bind mount, then it's just what I'm saying. You don't know who's going to win. If 5
Right.
nodes, one of them writes 1, one writes 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't know which of the 5 is going to win, but only one of them is going to persist ultimately.
Right, and that's what Greg was saying. So that's the issue that he was talking about, and it's kind of easy to tell if you just go onto the worker and you go into the file system. You will see the physical file there, and you will see the file in the container. You can see them. Just to be safe, I don't want to. I'm not 100% sure of this, but what I should do is go to all of the hosts and make sure that what I just said is true. Well, I think I did that. I think I went because I was curious, and I looked at each. I shelled onto each host, and each host had a physical file on the host, not in the container, on the host. And then I opened up the containers on the host, and yeah, there it was. The mirror of it was there. So yeah, who wins in that kind of thing?
And that was a bind mount.
That's what they call a bind mount. Yeah.
No, that's cool. I mean, this is
Well,
rubber meets the road.
yeah, check on that. and report
I'll
back.
have to follow
Yeah.
up on that, and you're thinking it could be possible that a bind mount means that, yeah, each of the containers might bind mount, but they're only bind mounted to one place.
Yes.
Yeah.
It'll look like it's there, but it's actually only persisted in remote places.
In one place.
Yeah.
That's the traditional Unix way of binding.
Okay. Well, why don't we continue on? I'll double check on that and provide feedback.
Okay, so the next chapter is really the kind of the meat, I felt, of the whole section here, which is it's the culmination of all this like base level knowledge, which is the Docker stacks, and it talks about the Docker stack file and the fact that it has networks and secrets and services. I think that's it. Is that version, services, networks, and secrets, right?
And with regard to all this, now that we are at this point, the one question as you're going through this that I kept asking myself, and I didn't have an answer for this, is you're creating this stack and you have Postgres in that stack. How many Postgres server databases are created and where are they created?
So
the way it was defined, I think there's just one.
yeah.
He doesn't specify replica.
Huh?
He doesn't specify replica count. So it's just one gets created.
That's the reason. I believe you're right.
Yeah.
I believe that's the reason. If you don't specify a replica count, it defaults to one. And he also constrained it to just a worker node. So both that constraint in the worker node and the default that unless you specify replicas, you only get one is the only reason only one Postgres database was created, and because you can imagine the chaos of more than one. That's what's worrying me.
Yeah.
You get it, Greg. That's what
Unless there was some cool partitioning.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it creates the one, and everybody can reference it just as in their query string, in their connection strings, just the word database. Well, the DNS resolver in stacks is gonna find this one Postgres.
It would be so easy to just say make more than one replica. Wow.
So the reverse proxy
That would be an
also
interesting
only has one, it looks like, right? The database only has one. This one has two. Sorry, where was I? Visualizer. That one only has one.
Did anybody try to get this to run?
Yeah.
I tried to. I couldn't get it to run. I got into a problem with a weird problem, and I Googled it. And a lot of other people had the same problem.
What was the problem?
It has something to do. I believe it had something to do with the secrets and the certifications, and it wasn't launching the reverse proxy service properly, and a lot of people were having problems with that. And
So what was the behavior you were seeing? It just wasn't, nothing was happening? Or?
Oh, they all spun up. It's just that when I tried to hit the port, the app didn't run.
Oh, so I had that same problem. It's because the actual store only runs on HTTPS. It's only on port 443 that you'll get the store to show up. If you're hitting 80, it'll say, welcome to it in Nginx. So yeah, I ran into that same problem. What? Like
Oh, I see. So despite the fact that he's exposed both here,
80, but if you look down,
you'd have to go in the
proxy
you'd have to go
code.
in the reverse proxy code. Yeah.
Or it's just an Nginx config, so you could look at it.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, I'm almost out of battery.
Reverse proxy. There's a plug there. Okay, and then right there, more Nginx config. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Server listen
So
443.
server listen 80.
Return 301 to HTTPS. Actually.
That's interesting. So
that
was
should be
not
working
for me. I mean that's a different problem. But if you go directly to HTTPS, then you can see location, and here's where it's doing the magic.
Where is this file?
Redirects you to app.
Just inside of reverse proxy, right underneath the
On which host? On the manager host?
Well, no, this is the source code right now. So we're not.
And the
Yeah,
source code
yeah,
before
yeah,
it was even composed
Yeah.
up or anything.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Right in there. Okay. I'll yeah. I
Yeah.
think you're right. That might have been all it was.
Yeah. I'm struggling a little to wrap my head around why you need the reverse proxy if the ingress mode is if they're all if hitting the like port 8080 maps to service port 8.
Yeah, I mean,
doesn't it just? I mean, why do you need a reverse?
You
proxy
don't.
if the swarm is handling the load
I don't think
balancing?
you do. I mean, like most reverse proxies are there only for networking concerns, right? Like you've got something on one plane that you don't want people touching or interacting with, and reverse proxies just sit in a wide open public network, and they're the only ones that can talk back to the, they're most reverse proxies are dual nicked, right? They're straddling the lines. They've got the public on one side,
Right.
and they've got the back plane on the other side, and
So maybe this thing, which is forcing HTTPS, is the only reason there's a reverse proxy here.
Could be.
It handles that plane of saying anybody coming in unencrypted, you're going to have to switch to the encrypted.
Actually,
Could be.
That's not a bad reason.
Yeah.
That's not unreasonable.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Anyway, sorry to digress.
No, that was a, yeah. I don't remember where we were though. So the I don't know. The first comment I really had in here was the was in the managing of the app. Page 295. I don't know if anybody had any comments earlier, but so this is the same in Kubernetes. It talks about you can run commands and they will take effect. And if you haven't updated your file, your what's the name of the file again? So this is page 295.
Oh yeah,
where he's talking about this is not the recommended method. Like you have a file which describes your services and the number of replicas needed, etc. And if you update it via the CLI, then other than querying, the commit, no one knows that happened, right? And your single source of truth is still this file. And now what's actually happening and the single source of truth are out of whack. And so you get into the situation where you're accidentally overwriting people's on-the-fly changes that have been made because they didn't make those changes in the single source of truth, right?
It did strike me as a little odd that something which could be short-term, he's recommending. I mean, right? Like Christmas Eve, your online store suddenly gets hit with a ton of traffic, so you need to scale out your instances to handle that. But then the day after, you want to go back to. So it felt a little strange, the idea of like, I'm changing this and committing this to source control, and now anybody will get my Christmas Eve version of the replicas, but the next day I check the code out, change it back to 2, and check it in again.
Yeah.
I don't know. Somehow that felt a little.
Like you have about rolling out changes.
Well, it's like changing the number of replicas, right? For one, I mean, that's just one example. There are many examples where you want to make a temporary change, but like the example I think that makes the most sense, and the one that we're sort of bantering about here, is if I change the number of replicas on Christmas Eve from 2 to 10, maybe Christmas Eve is, I think your Black Friday is probably better.
Black Friday.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
there you go.
But anyway,
That's
yeah,
the one.
I'd be like, who's shopping on Christmas Eve? But anyway, yeah. So Black Friday, you say, okay, there were 2, and I want to make it 10.
Yeah.
And you could do that via the CLI, but instead you have it in this file so that anyone can see on production, this is what is there, right? Versus going in and querying for production and saying, what is there, right?
Right.
So I don't know. I agree with the file method of management. It keeps it sane, I think.
Yeah, I think that's sort of the DevOps philosophy.
Yeah, because that way you can press the button that does, I will take whatever's in this file and make it so, not.
Right. So next year on Black Friday, you can same thing.
Yeah, I mean, typically what you do in the Kubernetes world is you'd have a rule, like when CPU is exceeded or number of requests in a time period exceeds this amount, then you want to go up, and then you have a min of 2 and a max of 10, and then it just happens automatically because it's Black Friday, not, you know.
And storing that in a file and checking that into source control
makes perfect sense. Yeah, and then you don't have to touch it at all. Right. But if you're micromanaging, or not micromanaging, manually managing, I guess, then this is, okay, I want to make this 2, 10, check it in, which makes it happen. Take it from 10 to 2, check it in, which makes it happen.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that you could do hypothetically is sort of separate that out into different files so that you're not sort of constantly spamming this one file, right? So if you have some of these more runtime things in a separate file, and that one you see has 100 check-ins, the source say, okay, that's reasonable. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know,
Git. Yeah, let's just use Git. Yeah.
Does SourceSafe allow 100 check-ins?
Does it get corrupted? It gets corrupted after about 10 or so. Yeah. Whew. Gotta brought a shutter. Ghosts of the past there. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I did like, and it's the same that's true in Kubernetes, how you basically just say, you know, you edit the thing, and then you say deploy using that thing. So you're just pressing the button. The one thing that bothered me, and I'm not sure how I could fix it or but so if you notice on page 297, when he's talking about the output of the, I changed from, the stop grace period was the one I was worried about. Visualizer stop grace period is 2 minutes. Okay, I changed the stop grace period, and it shut down the existing one and then started the new one. And I only had one of them running. And there's a period of time there where none of them were running. And I felt like, what the hell? That's just so wrong. And why is that the default? But I don't know how you could, other than having 2 running, I don't know how you would get around it. So
I think it's to have multiple run.
Yeah.
I mean, the visualizer, I don't know if you saw it, is just an on-screen rendering of your swarm configuration. So it's not something that you would need. I mean, in this particular demo, it's not something you'd need multiple of. It's okay if it goes down, comes up. But the store, which is across many, would be resilient during that upgrade.
So why would the visualizer, why wouldn't you just run 2 of them?
I mean, it's kind of like a diagnostic
but like
exploration tool, not really.
I don't know. Like if the thing that I'm looking at, if like my dashboard that tells me that the company is up and running is down, like I mean,
don't
I
think
know that there's a COO somewhere that's shitting his pants. You know, like he is seriously concerned.
I don't think the visualizer in this demo was meant to be that role. I think it was meant
but you know,
for us to see a picture of what was happening.
Right. Okay.
So it's okay if it's down for
this
a second.
one is I see, secondary service. But I think it is okay. The visualizer, there's nothing in it that was stateful, right?
Oh, you mean why wouldn't you have to?
Why wouldn't you have to?
Using up
Okay.
CPU.
Yeah.
You know what? There was something about the visualizer, which is he said because it's making Docker API calls.
Exposed. I remember
the
that
socket of the host.
I remember that.
And he's like, this is kind of non-standard. You don't really want to do this, so maybe there's, I don't know. Maybe actually you can only have
one.
I don't see why you couldn't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, it bothered me. The reading of the stopped.
The next one comes up.
Yeah. I mean, and it was down for a whole 2 seconds, it looks like. Because it says shut down 3 seconds ago, running 1 second ago. So 2 seconds, or I couldn't see what was going on. It was bothering me. Anyway. I guess multiple. All right, and then the last chapter that I wanted to cover tonight is
sorry, I just wanted to.
Go for it.
One thing that he didn't mention at all until the very last sentence of this chapter, 299, was you should maintain separate stack files for each of your environments, dev, test, and prod.
Yes.
Which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But it was in this,
what?
that you should have a separate stack file to represent your different environments. Your dev environment would only have one replica, and your prod would have 10, which makes perfect sense. But
it makes perfect sense, but it makes me think that Ted's right, and we should have a separate file for replicas.
Yeah,
because
right.
Because that's freaking annoying.
The things that are unique about prod into a separate document than the things that are common about dev.
Because if they're all, I mean, maybe if it had like a pound include or something like that, like this is my service.
Yeah, how do you reuse things across?
Yeah, because that file, look at this. Oh wait, yeah, it's large.
Yeah. So I wonder if there's a way.
Changing one number and one line of this.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
Isn't there a state?
Whoops! I created 10 visualizers instead of 10 stores, right?
Wasn't there a statement in the book around this part of the book that says something about that it's hard to create to demonstrate whether a stack can work in a development environment? I thought it was a rather odd statement. It was kind of like, well, you can create stacks, but stacks are really hard to test outside of production, which is not a good thing, right?
Yeah,
you really don't want to be testing them in there.
Interesting.
It was something to that extent. I'll tell you what. I'll make a comment. I'll try to find that part of the book.
Yeah.
There was something like that I thought was rather odd, that it's really hard to switch between development and production in stacks. Something to that effect.
Interesting.
Hopefully that's not true in Kubernetes.
No, it's definitely not. In Kubernetes, that's one of the things I like, is you don't have to go through this whole Docker machine, craziness. You have, there's a whole bunch of ways that Kubernetes runs, and you don't care sort of the underlying hardware that it's running on, and you can make sure that everything's running correctly without knowing that explicitly. Yeah. Okay, so security. And here's another section where I felt like some of this stuff could have maybe been, I mean, it's a really deep dive, unlike the rest of the book. He goes into some details which I
I love
felt.
his comment about nobody really likes reading about.
Yes, yeah. It is both.
Oh, yeah.
It is both complicated
Right.
and boring. I think is the comment that he made.
Yeah, it's not a fun read.
Yeah. But so I think the biggest win here for me in past environments, I think is what you were talking about earlier, Greg. Like the hardest part about doing this all configuration type stuff are those secrets and where you put those secrets and how you get those secrets on there on all of the environments, even new environments that you're spinning up,
right?
And that whole thing. And I guess you still have that to some degree here, but it did feel like there was a certain degree of management around it. Like the only holes you have to fill in are the secrets themselves. And there was a way of
all the client certs between
yeah
services are just taken care of.
Yeah.
Which is
that's nice.
Such a lifesaver.
But what about, so the typical problem that you have is you can't check secrets into source control.
Right.
So I have 4 devs and tomorrow I get another one. And now that person needs to run it on their environment. And so how do they get the secrets? Because they need it, or do you check in fake secrets into, like you check in the dev secrets because everybody can have them, no problem. And it's just the secrets of staging and production that you have to guard. And you do what with that? The problem with most of the secrets is you guard the secret with another secret. So it doesn't,
Right.
It just chains. You never get rid of the secret altogether, right? Like, oh, okay, well, just store it in an encrypted file. Oh, what are you encrypting the file with?
Right,
a
right.
secret. Well, what did that help?
But I think what's nice about this is, and it's kind of similar to the service discovery, is you don't need to store the secrets for this new dev. They just have to generate, when they run the instance, they generate secrets for their running of it. And those secrets get stored in Docker.
So they
and
just,
when software says, I need this secret, it doesn't have a specific, it's looking at like /run/.
I see what you're saying.
Where was that?
However, okay, no, I get it. So
It was in
basically,
the source code. Actually, if you bring up the,
I get it.
or maybe it was in here.
Wait, I get it. So basically, you say run this script, which you can check into source control because it does generate secret, not this is the secret.
And then on page 282, there's an example where there's a point to the stack file points to a local Docker managed, like where the secret will get stored for that service.
Right.
And that's all it needs to know. You don't have to have managed a shared secret across everybody.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the difference is normally
will,
for a dev box, everybody runs with the same secrets. Well, you would have to, like if it's your database.
No.
Okay, I guess
puts
not.
The password as a secret, which gets generated by this call.
They put their password.
Create secret.
For this. Okay, I get it. So all it is they run this script file, which you can check in. And as part of the script file, it prompts them for their password, which they just type in.
I don't even think you.
And that gets stored as the secret in their databases.
I don't think so. It generates a secret for you.
But the issue is, I need to go into that box and connect to the database in order to debug something, I have to know that freaking secret.
Then it's
So I think it should be prompt, like type in your secret, and I'm typing and it's putting asterisks on the screen, and you hit enter, and that's your secret. And then now I know the secret because it's my own secret, or I used LastPass or some,
I hear what you're saying. But I don't know, because they generate the password as a secret. I don't know how you would find out unless you.
But wait, what? I mean, like, you generate the password as a secret, but can't you type in the password as a secret?
There's a Docker command, secrets, Docker secrets ls. I don't know if you have that installed on your machine here anywhere.
I mean, yeah, Docker secrets should be here. No, maybe not. Oh, is it?
Space ls.
Is it Docker dash secrets? No, hold on 1 second. It's secret, right?
Maybe.
Docker secret, yeah.
Docker secret. ls. Manager. Sorry. Yep. Is this my manager? I think it is. So Docker secret ls. Yeah. Okay. And now if we say Docker secret create, right? And then name syntax.
You say.
Is it?
Well, wait. If you want to create one, you can either do it
dash
from a
dash
file or from the standard in.
That's what I'm talking about.
So
standard in.
Echo something.
No. The script would say Docker secret create the secret name dash, right? So Docker secret create my DB password dash.
Okay.
And that's what the script file says. He runs the script file, and then it's like my password. Okay. Boom. Maybe. Control D. No.
Interesting. So that's a good.
Do you still have that example running on your machine?
I do.
On your machine, that you will see the secrets. You go to that application, that stack application.
The secret is that.
Go to the manager.
Yeah. Okay. So the ID was that. No, I thought that was the secret that it was spitting out, but that's the ID. So my DB password is my password because I typed that in. So all you need to do for your script files, for the ones that you would need to know, that's what the script file would look like.
Get it. The secret is not okay. I get it now.
Yeah. So I typed in my password, and then somebody else types in their password.
Right.
And it doesn't matter that I don't know their password. It's their environment. They can connect to their database.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's good.
More sense.
Yeah. That's
cool.
Good.
Yeah. That is cool.
But then also you can have it just create a throwaway internal secret that lets the two of them talk to each other.
Yeah. That's right. I thought there was I'm not seeing that right now, but can't you just say generate me a secret?
I don't know that you can.
Because then you can just pass that secret to two different the sort of the producer and the consumer, and as long as they share that secret, it doesn't matter that you, the sysop, don't even know what the heck.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. For some of them, you'd be able to get away with that. Whoa. Docker secret generate. Is there? Nope. File or standard in. See, that's what I don't want. I want also a third option.
Which is they make one up.
Yeah. But I guess you'd still have to have some parameters for, like it can have this set of characters, must be this bits of entropy, has to be min password, max password length, whatever. Oh, but you could, I mean, like those tools exist. Generate password.
Something would just generate
Generate-
for you and
yeah.
just pass that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you standard in, and that comes from some other place, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that'd be fine. That way, for the secrets you don't care about, you just want them to be strong, and that's good enough, right?
So you could just have a script, the script that the startup
Yeah.
setup script.
That just is
Calls
checked
that
in.
thing.
Yeah. And so the README says run this file, so you download the source code, the file is checked in, it prompts you for the ones you need to know, and then the others it generates, and then boom, you're set up. And it doesn't matter that mine don't match yours.
Right.
Yeah. And then for staging, or some more publicly visible UAT or whatever environment,
Use like a key manager. Like
some sort of
AWS,
key hardware, or key manager, or something like that. So yeah, I mean, like all the cloud systems have that now.
Right.
Key Vault, or whatever it's called. So you put them in the Key Vault, and then whoever's an administrator, the rights are controlled via the access to the cloud. Right. So that's good. That works.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's a good solution. And that's all I want to cover. I mentioned that there's some other chapters in here. I mean, if you had questions on it, I can take a look, but that's all I read anyway, because I was super swamped. So next time we have Kubernetes. Which is a pretty small book, thankfully. And it does talk about Minikube, the thing that you'd run it on without needing, extra hardware. So we'll compare and contrast next time with Docker Compose and Swarm and
It doesn't
Stacks.
sound like you need to spin up a bunch of virtual machines, because it does it for you.
Well, it comes out of the box with this local environment, which simulates
Virtual machines.
a set of Swarm. Yeah. And so it's easier to test to make sure that things are running correctly, because you don't actually need the physical hardware. It can simulate as many virtual nodes as you want. All right. Any questions? Cool. Well, we'll see you next time for the final wrap up, and be thinking of, we said that we were going to do Spark, and I'm still okay with doing Spark as our next talk, but if you have other ideas, just bring them to the next meeting, and we'll do the normal put it up for a vote type thing.
I'm just curious, when you're publishing this out on YouTube or some, does it say how many people were listening in?
Yes, it does. All I need to do is find where that is. It'd be in analytics.
Average view duration 5 minutes and 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's nice, huh? But that's pretty typical for the the internet generation, I guess. So it looks like, depending on the episode, this is talking about the episodes after the fact. Tonight, are you in it now, or were you in it, Greg? You're not anymore.
I looked at it earlier, just to make sure it was running.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I get that information.
It's okay, it's just curious.
Yeah, I mean, normally we have, like 2 to 10 people on the actual online, but
It was all mine last month. It worked.
yeah. But it looks like watching now, and maybe that's offline. No, wait, hold on. It says Docker Kubernetes second meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It does say that I'm online. Yeah, the Infinity. I don't know. So I can't tell exactly how many are watching right now, but
Where's the dashboard?
over here.
Further over.
Oh, keep going. Dashboard.
Yeah.
Time not to hear it.
Views. Oh, that's.
That's the last 28 days.
Yeah, this one, that's the first meeting. There have been 81 views in the last. Yeah, I don't know. I still don't know how many are viewing right now. Yeah.
Ask everyone to raise their hand.
Yeah.
There's nothing over on the right side where it says analytics. It says
Well, the analytics looks to be like for after the fact. And I did see, you know, for last month or whatever. And even here you can see that, you know, 81 views of the first meeting, but I don't know.
doesn't show.
Yeah, for the live right now. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let me go and stop this. So I have to stop presenting and stop broadcasting.